Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Giving Voice to Values for Investment Professionals. So tonight we'll be having a briefing about the online interactive program we call Giving Voice to Values. The Giving Voice to Values is part of the planned activities of CFA Society Philippines for the Ethics Month, which is the month of October. The other activities that we have done are ethics in practice as a social media promotion, and also ethical decision-making workshop. As an investment professional, you need to effectively act on your values in the face of workplace pressures. You being here today shows your commitment to act on your values. So thank you for being here today with us. Through the Giving Voice to Values online interactive program, you will learn creative problem-solving approaches to advance conduct in the workplace that is consistent with your values. My name is Rochelle Sampang Manaog, Program Director of CFA Society Philippines, and I am your host for today's online event. We would like to take this opportunity to recognize our annual corporate sponsors, our platinum sponsor, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, our silver sponsor, FTI Consulting Inc., and our bronze sponsor, Infinite O. Some housekeeping and reminders: this webinar will be recorded. Screenshots, video, and audio clips will be used to report of the event on internal channels of CFA Society Philippines and possibly online website and social media platforms. If you do not consent the use of video or audio clips in which posts that you might be visible, please email us at events@cfaphilippines.org. No other recordings of any form are allowed once you enter the webinar. Please note that CFA Society Philippines holds the proprietary rights on all the presentation materials of this webinar. Kindly mute your audio when not speaking to prevent any background noise, and please write your comments or questions to the speaker in the Q&A box. Do not forget to introduce yourself by telling us your name and organization. Now, before we start, I'd like to give you a short background about ourselves. We are CFA Society Philippines. We are a member society of the Global Association of Investment Professionals, CFA Institute. We are an association of local investment professionals consisting of portfolio managers, security analysts, investment advisors, and other financial practitioners that have served CFA charter holders and CFA program candidates locally since 1997. We promote the highest ethical standards and professional excellence within the local investment community. And our mission is to lead in improving the quality and standards of the financial profession by offering educational programs, creating awareness of the CFA designation or its significance among various constituent groups, being an advocate on behalf of industry issues, and encouraging ethical behavior for the ultimate benefit of the Philippine society. And our vision is to be a recognized institution in the finance industry with members who are known for their integrity and professional excellence. Now, we won't keep you waiting for so long. To formally welcome us all, may we please call the President and Chairman of CFA Society Philippines, Dr. Robert Ramos, CFA, Kaya, CIP.
Thank you, Rochelle. So, good afternoon. It's good to have you all again. It's a pleasure for the Society to talk about the Giving Voice to Values program. Giving voices to our values is something that we need to do on a daily basis. Hopefully, this program helps you with this. This program, in a nutshell, is about preparing and practicing values-based actions. It also answers several questions, which focus on how we can act on our values and how these can be most effective. Without giving too much away, let me give you back to our host, Rochelle. Again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos, for the warm welcome. And again, this webinar is brought to you by CFA Society Philippines in partnership with CFA Institute. To learn more about this program, may we now call on the Director for Ethics Education and Professional Standards in Asia Pacific of CFA Institute, Mr. Alan Locke, FRM, MBA, CFA.
Thank you, Rochelle. Let me start by showing the screen of my slides. I'll keep it very short because all the participants here, what I understand is that you guys have already signed up for the GVV actual cohort-based 1-month engagement course. Thank you for that, and I welcome you on board. So today, what I'm going to do is to give you a glimpse, as in have a few of the tips of the iceberg, what exactly is GVV. So I should begin by giving you all some of the content, and I call it GVV and the 3 A's of ethical decision making. Okay, so I'm your host today. I'm your facilitator today. My name is Alan Lok. I'm the Director of Ethics Training and Professional Standard Asia Pacific. And just a bit of my background, I used to be a buy-side and sell-side analyst, and I used to be an investment manager for a very big solar energy company. And I have seen a lot of ethical dilemma in my entire life, including part of my stint as an adjunct lecturer. So without further ado, now, what are the 3 A's of ethical decision making? Or shall I say, what are the 3 A's you will encounter when you're talking about ethical dilemma? First, awareness. Second, analysis, and third, action. And the GVV program that you are going into will be focusing predominantly on action. Now, let's talk a bit about awareness. Why do we need to get educated in the realm of handling ethical dilemma? First, there's a big difference coming on board between yesterday cooperation and future cooperation. For a start, in the normal conventional yesterday cooperation, and particularly more so in Asia Pacific, because we are ancient, we tend to be more collective in thinking, and in terms of individualism, we are far away from the Western world. First, my mom used to tell me when I first began at work, your personal values stay at home. The moment you step out of the house and go to work, you should only bring your professional value to work. Work is work. Private life stays private. And my mom further say, if you want to climb from a low junior executive to mid management or even beyond, I give you a word of advice. MYOB. What is MYOB? Mind your own business. So I was being told by my parents to mind your own business when I was starting my career, and I actually thought that, wow, that means I'll be spending 1/3 of my life from 9 to 6. Doing something that I might not agree to, but because I need to make a living out of it. And therefore, to me, it was a very daunting task. And the best thing is that when I eventually worked, it wasn't 9 to 6, it was 9 to 9, unfortunately. So, today's Generation Z, those who are born after 1995, and some of you here actually belong to this group, is very different. The Generation Z people, they go directly for self-actualization. And this new generation of professionals has a strong desire to voice out inequality in their workplace. Why? Because unlike the previous generation of us, I came from the 1970s. I was born in the 1970s, so I belong to the pre-X generation. What's the main difference is that this Generation Z group of young people, they are from middle-class family and they are financially more stable. So their desire to pursue dominant monetary goal is actually not that strong compared to the previous generation. But at the same time, they have a strong desire for self-actualization, to pursue things that align with their personal value. And that is why we often see that most of them wanted to make an impact in the workplace. And I'm not sure whether that defines most of you here. And if it is, bingo, you're on the right course. And if you're not, and if you are in the pre-X or X generation like me, then this is an eye-opening for you, because whether you like it or not, you're going to manage this group of people, and you need to know what they think, how they think. And this is where GVB comes in. So we are in the age of transparency. First of all, with 5G, Internet of Things, and information flow will be very even. It will be very hard for crisis once occurred to be contained. Why? Reason very simple. Because whenever we walk on the street, whenever something very funny happens or something disastrous happens, the common thing that actually occurs is everybody take out their mobile phone. And all this mobile phone on mobile phone video recording actually render exposure to be almost instantaneous. So overnight, because all of us have the phone in our pocket, we become walking live CCTV. It means that anything that happened that is being exposed on a very small scale will spread like wildfire very soon. And this is why it is very hard to contain crisis or any sudden news. And when that happens, it means that self-serving corporate culture will be very hard to maintain. Because all of us understand that in the olden world, the way individual entrench themselves and keep their power within themselves is by controlling the flow of information. Once you are able to control the flow of information and other people do not know, there's information asymmetry, and that's where power originates from. But this is getting harder and harder to do in our modern society. So as a person leader, whether or not you are ready, the above environmental changes have arrived. And all of you can actually smell it from the ESG, very vibrant culture that we see. Is no longer a fact. The people behind it, the investors, the regulators, the young people, they gun for it. They want to work for organizations who value corporate value, gel up with their personal value. And this is where we are. And this is a bit of a recap of awareness, why we need to be aware of all these changes going on. The next step, the next A's in our 3 A's of ethical decision making is analysis. And today, I don't have time to go through the full-fledged analysis. If you are keen to know how to analyze ethical dilemma, I would advise you to actually feedback to Rochelle or even Precious so that we can arrange a separate EDM workshop for all of you. That is another totally separate workshop on its own where we discuss case studies. So today for analysis, I will just cut it short and let you have a glimpse of how we actually analyze things at the CFA Institute, where we have this EDM framework, where first step, whenever you encounter an ethical dilemma, you identify the crisis, you identify the dilemma involved, and you consider all the options and all the alternative way that you can actually use to solve an issue. Following that, you actually act on it, because no matter how much decision you make, no matter how much consideration you make, if you analyze and you don't take action, that's called over-analysis, and that's not good. So our culture and our way of thinking is TLDM, talk less, do more. Act on it. And after you act, as long as the thing doesn't kill you, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. You reflect on it and you build on it. And with experience, these 4 steps become part of your muscles memory. And if you find these 4 words a bit very vague, well, we have this EDM framework for you. Very colorful and have a few steps for you to consider. Well, if you want a soft copy of this, very easy. Go to this software called google.com and you just key in EDM framework CFA. You can download this PDF copy for free. Okay, so this is predominantly the framework that we advise people to use when you are trying to analyze an ethical dilemma. But for today, our focus is not on awareness, it's not on analysis, it's just for me to show you why we need to do all this. Our key focus today is action. And action is the predominant theme on GVV, giving voice to value. So let's consider a general case of ethical dilemma. When you are facing an ethical dilemma, what do? You have 3 choices. Either you keep silence, which most of us do, or you just walk away, avoid it, the second majority do, or you choose to voice out. And that is the third option that we actually encourage most of you guys out there to actually do it. But the problem is that voicing up one's value when you observe an ethical dilemma might be a very sensitive affair at times. In fact, when you suspect your colleague is potentially engaged in some unethical act, you actually felt obligated to voice out, but at the same time find it tough to do so. Why? Because if you are suspecting that your colleague is doing something unethical, but if you voice out and eventually it turned out to be a misunderstanding, you offended him or her. So that's the risk you have to take. And because of that, most people will try and opt to stay silent. After all, the less you voice out, the less risk you take on. Remember, previously I was mentioning my mom used to tell me, mind your own business at work. However, you must know that if you really adopt the silence option, even if it might lead to some problem coming in. But some people might argue, if you have voice out, I'm a small potato, okay, I'm a small junior staff. No one might add on it, so what's the point? However, and also the second most favorable option would be avoidance. And avoidance, there are 2 ways. First way is a very big way. You find something unethical and you find that the people around you or your colleague are all acting on it. Everybody does it. It's a very common kind of situation, or in some working environment, everybody is taking a shortcut, is behaving unethically, then they actually resort to resignation. Or it can be a smaller, less traumatic action like switching to a new team. But this doesn't solve the problem. Why? Because when you resign, when you switch to a new team, all the network that you built over the years to your current position, all your human network will have been all wasted, and you have to start from ground zero. So this might not be the best way to move forward. A group of minority people will actually opt to voice out. Voicing out, I must make it clear at this point, does not necessarily mean full-blown whistleblowing. It doesn't mean that you have to launch a full-fledged attack on the target colleague. Nobody in the right mind with the common EQ would actually be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that in any way, because it might be a misunderstanding in the first place. What you should do is that besides voicing it out directly, there are lots of alternative action, okay? Things like find out more information, gather more information, talk to related party, indirectly hint to the target person, find out whether this is true. Why is he thinking in this way? Why is he or she contemplating the unethical decision or unethical thought? Is it because there are some unknown reason, or is it because he or she got no alternative? There are many ways to do it. Now, thus far, I've given you framework. I've talked to you about the 3 options you can choose when you're facing an ethical dilemma. Without further ado, let's go through a real-life example. And this real-life example came from GVV Module 1. So I'm actually jumping the gun to show you what exactly we have inside. And this case study is a very, very common one. And it's a real-life case study, okay? Susan Fox, a newly hired financial analyst at a leading Wall Street bank. The bank had just been through major turnover, so many of her peers and her supervisor were new too. As Susan was beginning to understand the various client and portfolio on her team, she realized that there was a serious backlog of work. Basic client documentation were not updated for months. Regular client meeting kept being pushed back. There seemed to be a never-ending influx of phone calls from clients asking for update. So Susan spent her entire first 2 weeks on the job just trying to update and put all the client portfolio on track. Sounds familiar? Most companies that undergo restructuring, where a very big portion of the old staff were being retrenched and new staff coming in, will face this kind of problem. So during her 3rd week, Susan's supervisor suddenly asked her to drop everything and focus on one specific portfolio, because he will be having a meeting with this client that afternoon. Now, when she looked at the numbers of the portfolio, it was obviously blatantly clear to her that this client has suffered portfolio losses due to the firm's recent changes. She also noticed that this client investment portfolio was small in comparison to the other client of the firm. But why is it that her supervisor was so concerned? Because this client was a good friend of the senior partner, and his asset has fallen very sharply because of the mismanagement of his portfolio. Now, Susan was thinking that her supervisor most probably is looking for help to break the bad news to the client in their meeting. But to her surprise, Susan's supervisor is actually intended to ask her to revise, fudge the number, fudge the benchmark in the portfolio so that it looks nicer, more impressive to the client. Susan did not say anything. She simply took over and returned to her desk. She talked to herself, if she were to be at the firm for longer and she's not a newbie, it would have been easier for her to put her foot down and tell her boss, no, sir, this is unethical. But because she was new, she didn't want to make a bad impression, or worse, get fired, because she refused to do what her supervisor wanted. So she questioned herself and wondered, is it okay to fudge the number just once, especially when she did not have a lot of time? Remember, that afternoon she has to respond. But there was no gray area in her mind. She is a very ethical person. She tells herself, if she changed those numbers, not only would it go against her own judgment, her own conscience, it would be a violation of the bank code of ethics and standard of professional conduct. And she kept thinking of the client, a retired gentleman who saw the portfolio as his legacy for his children and grandchildren. Now, if you were Susan, what would you do? A, would you have asked a colleague and a more experienced colleague, what would they do in this situation based on experience? Or B, tell the supervisor his request was unethical and refuse to do it. C, jump the gun, skip her supervisor, go to the supervisor boss and explain the situation. D, actually tell the supervisor, I will adjust a number, but don't actually do it, so that the client end up seeing the truth. Or E, tell your supervisor you are not comfortable with the request, but tell him that you are doing him a favor this time. What would you do if you were Susan? Anyone want to comment? You can unmute yourself and comment. We got someone on the chat. E, tell your supervisor that you are not comfortable with the request. Someone opt for E. Some opt for B. Right. Yeah. Stratos, you want to have any comment?
Oh, sorry.
Stratos is sitting right beside.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
We had a technical difficulty. Okay.
Just use the mic.
So we are together with Alan in the room. That's why there might be this technical difficulties. First of all, we need to understand the situation. As a professional, you need first to understand what are your obligations towards your client and towards your firm. And as you know, as a CFA charter holder, first of all, you have an obligation towards your client and the financial industry, not giving priority to your firm. Then you need to understand what is the situation and analyze what is happening. And then after you do this, you need to understand and reflect as per to what is the best course of action. So maybe we can, instead of giving you the direct answer, perhaps we can start like taking out some options that might not be the best. So tell your supervisor you're not comfortable with the request, but you could do it as a favor. You still, I mean, you have to work for your supervisor. You need to be faithful to your supervisor, but you should not compromise your client's best interests. So we take this out. Now, if we go to option B, C, and D, and A as well, I mean, you don't take any action that immediately compromises your client's best interest. But then, what is your end game in that? Your end game is to protect the investor's interest, but you shouldn't go directly to a full-scale attack. So just tell your supervisor his request was unethical and refuse to do it might give you this kind of problem. Go to your supervisor boss and explain the situation, or ask a colleague what they would do in situation based on experience. It will help you collect more experience. And then you also have the situation of D, say that you will adjust the numbers, but not actually do it, so the client ends up seeing the truth. Doing that, you create a lot of problems to your firm as well. So I would say we take out D as well. Then we have A, B, and C. If you go full scale, that might just create problems. And then if you just ask a colleague what they do in this situation based on experience, a colleague might tell you A or B or C, but perhaps they might not be in a position of knowing best what to do. So all in all, what I would do, I would go to my supervisor boss and explain the situation. What do you think, Alan?
Exactly. And this is exactly the kind of engagement we want all of you to actually do in the real GVV platform. And this case, Mind you, for those of you who are signing up for GVV, you will see the same case again. So I'm actually giving you an advantage to gain valuable points. For those who didn't attend this session, you won't get this advantage, and that's the prizes for attending this session. Now, Stratos, thanks for your engaging analysis, and this is exactly what we want. And in the real GVV, it will not be one person doing it verbally, it will be a group of people doing it virtually, and some of you can even shoot your ideas across each other in a very interactive, engaging way. And now, let me review the answer. Remember, this is a real life situation. What Susan did is that she actually chose option A. She actually reached out to a fellow analyst who had been with the firm for longer and briefly explained what was going on. She actually asked him if she was missing something. He agreed that this was not acceptable. But it was obvious he was glad it was she and not he who was facing it. So by choosing option A, Susan didn't solve any problem, didn't solve anything. So it was not useful at all. And guess what? Thinking about her career as well as the integrity of the firm, she did not think it would work just right to run into her supervisor office and say the request was ethically wrong. So she did not tell the supervisor directly that it was wrong. Because if she did that, she feel that he might just turn her colleague and ask him to do it instead. So Susan devised an alternative plan. Now, at this juncture, I want to pause for a while. If you realize, when Susan was coming up with a solution to solve this issue, she didn't solve it from the perspective of not getting herself into trouble. She genuinely wanted to solve the problem. Because if she have told her boss directly, she actually worried about her boss diverting the issue to another colleague, and she even thought of that. So that shows that Susan is a very highly ethical and conscious person. And what she did is that she go to her supervisor, tell him directly that she could not change the benchmark convincingly, but instead she could provide an alternative analysis to explain to the client patiently why the portfolio was underperformed at each point, at each stage, and carefully explain how she intends to address this issue going forward. And guess what? To her surprise, her supervisor was fine with it. So it turned out that her supervisor was not committed to being unethical. The supervisor knew the previous arrangement or suggestion was unethical, but he was too afraid of having a difficult or embarrassing conversation with the client, and he thought changing the numbers was the only way out. So he was myopic. He could not see alternative solution. But now Susan provided a successful alternative they were both comfortable with. And guess what? We have a win-win situation. And of course, we might not have this in all situations. This is just a very lucky situation for Susan. And that's the reason why I encourage all of you to sign up for GVV, to come up and look at even more cases, systematically, structurally go through more cases, engage with one another, learn from each other's experience. And that's why, let me conclude now. What did we learn from the case study? First of all, in most ethical dilemma, we have multiple choice. We have multiple options. Secondly, never pre-label the target person as an unethical individual. Don't pre-label anyone. Give him or her the benefit of the doubt. Number three, try to think from the other person's shoes. Number four, attempt to extract more information from engaging dialogue. Don't just shoot out and whistle blow directly. Always think out of the box. Very, 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 very crucial. And last but not least, try your best to stay objective. Don't bring your emotion in. I knew it's tough, and that's why we need GVV. Okay, this is how GVV looks like if you sign on. We have 5 modules, and the example I have just shown you came from module 1, values in context. So if you were signing up for our course, you will actually see this. And what is our main purpose for GVV? We are trying to provide practical strategy that will allow you to effectively act on your value in the face of workplace pressure. All are very practical skill set. You may think you are powerless to effect change, but GVV gives you the skill and the confidence to act on your value when you know what's right. And what is the outcome and impact? We expect you to learn and practice skills to successfully address ethical conflict in your professional life, implement creative problem-solving approach to advance conduct in the workplace that's consistent with your value, and identify what enable and disable you from voicing your value effectively, and assess and harness your individual strength. In other words, within this 1 month engaging course, at your comfort, at your own personal time, you will learn from each other how to become a better person in your workplace, able to voice out your value without offending anyone. So I will stop here. I will take any question from any of you who is keen to know more about GVV. Thank you. Michelle, back to you.
Hi, everyone. For your questions, you may use the chat box. Just type your questions there. So, Alan, I think they would be interested to know how long will the program be. And since this is something that you need to do as a group, collaborating, communicating, tackling, topics and situations together. So do they need to do this, in sync with each other?
No need. And that's the beauty of it. You are not playing a live online game where you have to be together online at the same time. You can at your own sweet time log on to it. As long as you complete all the 5 modules within a period of 30 days, you can actually get the point. And there's a lot of gamification features on it. And guess what? Because all of us are actually very used to social media, whenever people engage on GVV, there's a limit on word count. That means whenever you shoot out a comment, there's a limit on how much you can type. So you will not see any grandmother long story. And that's the worst we want. Because whenever you try to read things online, we hope it is short. So we purposely take into consideration behavioral finance and attention attention focusing psychology, that aspect. We actually get the expert to actually design the entire platform. So it has a gamification feature for those of you who like to earn points and who are able to come up with very creative comment, and people put a like and people reply to you. You earn more points, and you will be ranked based on how many likes you get on your comment. So it's also quite fun and a bit positively, engagingly competitive kind of program for all of you. And there's no right and wrong. Just like the previous case study that I actually showed, Stratos gave a very good explanation of his thought of it. But there's no right and wrong answer. It is just the way you're handling it. And mind you, just now that case study by Susan is a real life example, and she managed to come up with a win-win situation. And this is exactly what we want to do with all of you, to help you to become a better person at workplace, able to voice out your value, sleep better at night, and able to handle things with higher EQ without offending people, and also able to analyze things, and it become part of your muscle memory, so that whenever you see an ethical dilemma, you don't have to think much. Immediately, you can know how to react.
Thank you, Alan. So it means that there's a leaderboard, right? Where you get some points, you get to be on top, right?
Yep.
Somebody asked about how to sign up. Signing up would be through CFA Society Philippines. We just need to get your details so we can provide that to our colleague in the CFA Institute office. We can still accommodate those who want to join the Giving Voice to Values 1 week.
One more week. One more week. Because
that will be by next week.
Our current cohort for Philippine Society is already open, and we have enough people in it already, but it has not reached the maximum number of people yet. So the seats are running out fast. So if you can, let Michelle or Precious know and submit your email, your name, so that we can put you into the program for these batches.
So we opened the Giving Voice to Values already to all of those who registered for CFA Society Philippines cohort. And I believe, if I understand it correctly, the program will end by November 30, which gives us a month to complete everything.
Correct. 1 month, correct. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Do we have other questions from the audience? So if you're still not registered and you're very much interested because of how Alan presented that case study to every one of us, you are very much welcome to register for the GVV. It's still open until next week. And as mentioned, it's an online interactive program, and it's at your own pace, but we're giving you until November 30 to finish everything. But it's very short. There are only 5 modules. Each module it would only take you 30 minutes to complete. And after completing everything in your account, you will receive a certificate for completing
Yes.
the program.
Correct. And
Yes,
one thing I want to share with you is that some of the students have find very useful to actually put this certificate as part of their CV, because it actually make the potential employer asking them, "Oh, you have a GRE cert. What is that? Tell me more about it." So it become an icebreaker during social, during networking, during job interviewing. And I'm not saying that once you graduate from here with a GRE cert, you definitely get a very good job. No, I don't guarantee you that. But what I can guarantee you that is a very good icebreaker channel.
all right. I think we were able to answer the question here about the certificate. And yes,
Yep.
as mentioned, there's
Yep.
certificate once you've completed the program. Do you have other questions from the audience? But don't worry, if you have further questions that we're not able to answer here, you can easily send us an email at events@cfaphilippines.org, or you may message us at Facebook. Or if you are already our member, you can connect with us via Viber.
When we offer GVV through our local society, like Philippine Society, it will be on a pro bono basis. That means free of charge. But if we were to offer GVV through other institutions, it will be a charging content. So this is one of the best opportunity for you to come on board on a pro bono basis, because CFA Society Philippines is one of our most preferred partners to work with you on this, and they are limited. We are limited the number of badges because it does cost us something behind the back end to actually run this. And this is a program that we did with Nomatics and with Mary Gently GVV. So it is a very well-known program in the world, and we are the first to actually bring it to the investment management industry.
That's great. So please grab this opportunity to join the GVV of CFA Society Philippines in partnership with CFA Institute. Alan, I'd like to thank you for being here today and for giving us this briefing. This is very useful. And this actually concludes our webinar. But before we end our program, we'd like to request everyone to answer our short poll for the evaluation. You will see that on your screen. I think we only have about 5 questions. So we're asking about presentation content. Is it very useful, not useful? Speaker, is it excellent, good, satisfactory? Would you recommend the speaker for other events? Wow. They're saying, Alan, you're an excellent speaker.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
They would like to recommend you for other events, and the presentation content is very useful. Thank you very much for those who answered the poll. And we will be having a group photo. So you may turn on your video now so we can have a group photo. And as you are preparing, turning on your video, let me just thank our annual corporate sponsor, our platinum sponsor, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, our silver sponsor, FTI Consulting Inc., and our bronze sponsor, Infinite O. Okay, let's have everyone. So exciting to see everyone who joined us. Some are shy, or some have left, actually. Brett. I'm not seeing you, Brett. All right. I think, wow, we have students so young. Brett, are you joining? We have Chris.
Hi, Chris.
There you go.
Hi, I'm not ready for a photo.
You're not photo ready.
Yep.
That's okay. So let's have a photo, group photo. Everyone, smile. 1, 2. Hi, Brett. Nice to see you. Okay, let's have a photo. 1, 2, 3. All righty.
Okay.
So please accept our sincerest appreciation for your time and effort in participating in today's webinar. Thank you. God bless and keep safe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.